can do. So, hi everybody to today's webinar. We have just discussed that, now I got it. Now I have it. We just discussed about your thesis submissions, at what stage are you? And let us try today to explain actually how the whole story looks like before you have submitted and after you have submitted, in order to understand how the processes are, as well as, I guess another thing is extremely important, that we understand how long can it take, because that's one of the important things. So if we go to the, let's say, learning outcomes for today, as I said, to try to understand how to tackle your process at your university of preparing your thesis for submission, because that's important. So I will ask you at 1, 2, 3, maybe even at the end times, how is the policy regarding the submission of your thesis? I mean, you have to know it, because if you do not know it, that will make you probably suffering even a little bit more. So be aware of it. Talk to your supervisors, talk to the HDR office or a postgraduate office in order to understand every single step. And as we said, I'll try to explain these steps on a general, let's say, process, which is common to majority of the universities. And as I said, the another thing is, let us talk about the length of the examination process, because that might surprise you as well. The ones who haven't done it, just let us wait till the end of the webinar, and then you will see it a little bit in a different way. So the questions I would like to ask you, and you should be able probably at one point or as soon as possible to answer them. Are you familiar with the thesis submission? And Shehu, you are, can you mute yourself, please? Examination process, that's, as I said, important. Then other questions is, do you know when are you there, let's say, that you are able to submit, that you are allowed to submit? That's the first thing. And then, as we said, how you submit is definitely linked to the policies of your university. And the last one, so anybody can answer this last question. Do you know how long can it take? Any ideas? Your colleagues, somebody else who has done it?
From submission to around 3 to 4 months, am I right?
3 to 4 months, you are optimistic, and that would be actually perfectly fine if that would work. From the submission to the graduation, that was my question, in a way. Okay, let us talk about that. It will be probably, I mean, if you manage it in 4 months, then your university is probably perfect, and your quality is not bad as well. So let us talk about that in order not to make you nervous while you will be waiting before you reach that finish line everybody wants to cross as soon as possible. So 3 to 4 months, that's actually a really good time. That's even Usain Bolt probably wouldn't be so fast. So as we said, let us try to understand when to submit. I'll try to talk a little bit what happens after the submission. As I said, how long can it take? And then in the end, let us open a discussion how it is at your university, how you see it. Do you have any support? Have they explained it to you? And things like that. Let us have a nice group discussion towards the end. And something else, you can always ask questions. I mean, you can post them in the chat, or please just grab your mic and ask a question. You are never bothering me. I'm extremely happy to have as many questions as possible, even during the presentation, please. Okay. So the first question we would like to tackle is, when can you submit? I'll bring a few points, and as I said, let us discuss them. Let us try to understand them. I mean, definitely, not before. Here will be actually kind of the introductory sentence, not before the thesis is completed and follows the university guidelines for the thesis structure. You have the policy, it is clearly stated how it should be kind of structured. So, as I said, there are some things which are common for all of the universities, some are actually specific for each of the universities, but the length is usually between 40,000 words and 100,000 words. I mean, I have seen even the DBAs, let's say, with 32,000, as well as I have, should I say, unfortunately, read PhD thesis with 450 pages. But I have to tell you that when you are reading that, you just want that at some point gets done, and that's it, nothing else. You are probably not even able to focus. So don't do that. It shouldn't be too long. And as I said, many universities have a word count limit, which is many times between 80 and 100,000 words. So you have to take care of that. Don't be too long. Then it's about the content. I mean, that will be probably and mostly discussed with your supervisors. So they will kind of give you probably quite insights in that as well. But still, read the policies. Then it is about the language. I don't know how it is actually at your universities. Can you write in English? Can you not write in English? You have to write in English. It depends actually where you are working. At some universities, in some states, you even have to kind of get permission to write in English and things like that. So that's important to know as well. I mean, from my perspective, I would say, and I would recommend that if you are good enough in English, try to write it in English, because yeah, the impact might be actually much bigger. And after the PhD, you will have at one point to start writing papers, journal papers, and whenever the things are in English, this will be actually even easier for you. And then the arrangement regarding formatting. So the title page has to follow a clear guidelines. Then abstract, how it is written. Is it structured? Is it one page? Is it 2 pages? Usually we have a limit here as well. Then the sequence of chapters. Some universities are even requesting that you have just, let's say, 5 chapters or 6 chapters. Even that can be kind of given. So think of that. I have seen that, or even I have examined a thesis where I was, for example, not happy with the sequence of the chapters because the things were, for me, too crowded, kind of pushed together into one chapter. But then the answer was kind of the university asks for 5 chapters, and we have to stick to that structure. Then about typing, margins, extremely important. You know, at one point they will come and say, okay, the margins are not okay. Then you have to reformat everything, and you know how it is reformatting everything. After you have done all your figures, all your tables, everything is perfectly fine. And then you will, I don't know, have to squeeze it, for example, for a little bit. You will have to do everything from the beginning. So try to use a template which is approved by university, as well as with the fonts and spacing and stuff like that. Important, where the numbering of the pages is. Think of that. As well as printing, binding. Should it be printed? Should it be bound or not? That's another question. Many universities are saying don't bind it before the Viva, before everything is ready. It is still actually in the examination phase and things like that. So think about that as well as regarding the illustrations and other, let's say, formatting things, how big they should be. And many even kind of limit the number of it and things like that. And don't forget, please, on different copyright issues, very important. But usually you have thought about it during your ethics approval process. If you are taking, let's say, some data or even some pictures or figures or if you are using some measurement scales and things like that, that has to be definitely cleared before you will be, kind of trying to submit your thesis. Another thing which is extremely important, for me probably the most important one anyway, is that you are kind of taking care of the quality level of your thesis. Okay, and that is usually when we are saying how unique it is, how novel it is, and what is the contribution to the literature. So in this case, you will be discussing that hopefully with your supervisors, as well as, don't forget, you have actually many papers which are kind of guiding you what is the proper quality. You have actually DBAs, PhDs from good universities. Please check that, because sometimes, let's say, the supervisors see it in a good way or are not too experienced, and when it comes then to the examination, we don't want you to suffer, so take care of that as well. Definitely, I mean, that's kind of linked. I would say the supervisors will tell you whether you are there, whether the contribution level is appropriate or not, and you will have to wait for the approval of your supervisory team. I don't know how that will work, how long it will actually go, how many revisions you will have to do before they will give you a green light. But definitely in majority of the universities, the supervisory team has to sign off that they have approved it and they gave you the green light. That's another thing which is important, as which I have just discussed, I guess, with Erica a few minutes ago. So feedback, improving, revision. And after a while, let's say, and a lot of feedback and discussions, you will be probably getting a green light from them. Another thing is then, when you are getting, that's another thing which is for me extremely important. Please check on that as well. English language proofreading and editing services. First of all, you have to do that, as I said, in many universities after the supervisory team has given you a green light. If you have another stage, some of universities I'll be talking about that are even have an internal, let's say, quality assurance, and it can be done, the proofreading, even after that. So please do not go with proofreading and editing services before the green light has been given by the supervisor, and always use professional providers. Okay, always, because I have had recently an unpleasant situation where things were given to proofreading before the green light was given by the supervisory team, and things were not nice. So take care of that, please. You have to assure that the proofreading is really just proofreading and nothing else. The contribution of the editing services has to be clear and given, and that's why take care of that. After that will be done, then usually your thesis will be checked on similarity and plagiarism. I don't know which, let's say, software or your university is using, can be Turnitin or something else. And after that, usually the university's integrity officer will check the plagiarism report and write his, let's say, integrity officer's report. So that is kind of the sequence which usually runs. But as I mentioned, at some of the universities, another step might come after the supervisors have approved it. You have, as I said, maybe internal thesis examination, which is usually performed by the associate dean research or a person internally in the organization or in the university, or if that is a really specific topic, they might send it to somebody else. Just as another step, that the quality, and especially we are talking once again about the contribution, will be given. because you know, it's even important, not just for you, let's say as students, but I guess even the image of the university is extremely important, I hope, to the university, and they are taking care that the best possible, let's say, PhDs will be sent out to the examiners. Are we okay here? Any questions, or is everything clear?
Everything's clear.
Okay, cool, perfect. So let us go then to the next stage. What happens after the submission? That means you have kind of done your job. You have submitted it to the HDR office, I don't know, postgraduate research office, I don't know how it is called at a university, but you have done, let's say, your job. Now you are in the stage where you will be waiting for a while that actually you will be getting the results. The first thing is where you usually are involved. As I said, that's different with some units, with a different university that runs in a different way. But many times the supervisors and the student together are nominating the examiners. And there's once again a clear policy and the criteria. And the next slide will be talking about the criteria which should be followed during the nomination process. But what is important now from the, let's say, nomination of examiners, especially if you are part of it, that you are suggesting examiners who are kind of good, who will have understanding of the topic as well as the methodology. And many times even the supervisors are, let's say, picking or suggesting the supervisors, as I said, together with the student, who have been mentioned, let's say, cited, referenced many times in your topic. So definitely the guys who understand what is going on. So understanding the topic as well as having knowledge and expertise within the field of research. So that's really important. Usually you can think about the academic rank as well. So I would say if I can or should actually suggest, in case you are going to be involved in this process, go rather with guys like myself. That means with gray hair and stuff like that, more experience, understanding more things, being a little bit broader and so on. Don't try to get somebody who is maybe rather young and still maybe a little bit not experienced in the examination process. Discuss that with your supervisors and then find a good solution. I don't want to say, and I have never done, that you should kind of think who might be easier, who might give me actually less comments or something like that. That makes no sense. You know, one of the really seals of quality is that you mention, for example, at the end, because at the end you will know the names who was, let's say, examining your thesis. If that is really a known person in the area, then actually that is really a good sign, and it will help you definitely even for some other steps within afterwards, let's say in your career. So it's important as well that some universities even are asking for ranks, let's say associate professor, full professor, for example. And usually you will be nominating 3 to 5 potential examiners. Non-conflict of interest, I'll talk about that in the next slide. It's extremely important as well. So nor the student, neither the supervisors should be kind of in a close relationship to these people. That's extremely important. So that was the nomination of examiners, where you are kind of still part of it, but you should, and that's actually kind of another thing, never know who was finally selected out of those 3 to 5 examiners. You will not know that. The maybe supervisors will know, as well as the, let's say, university, definitely, but you should not know it. So after the nomination of the examiners, which will be kind of forwarded to the HDR office. Then the HDR office, usually together with the supervisors, will select the examiners. That means out of those 3 to 5, usually 3 to 5, as we said, then we will go actually usually with 2, and that will be sent, the thesis will be sent to these 2 guys. What are we usually checking whenever we are kind of then approving the proposed, the suggested examiners? Their teaching area, their research field, the publications in the research field. And what is another thing which is quite important, how many PhDs or DBAs and or have they supervised to completion? So are they experienced? Do they understand the process? As well as, which is for me, as I said, quite important ones, quite an important one, how many examinations have they already done? Because that helps, as I mentioned before, in the process of the examination. And as I mentioned, no conflict of interest. That means you, your supervisors, shouldn't be working together, at least for the 5 years, shouldn't be having, let's say, a journal paper together, shouldn't be working on projects and things like that and things like that. So it's quite important to kind of be able to tick all those criteria. And after that has been done, then as I mentioned, the 2 will be probably invited to supervise the thesis, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So after that has been done, then the HDR office, as I said before, will actually kind of following the university submission process. Is it now offline or online? Majority has now online, some of them have offline, but you know, I have met some examiners who have said, no, I don't want to have it in an e-form, just print it and send it to me. You are having such a, let's say, guys out there still who would like to have it in paper format sent by normal, let's say, post. They will check the content and formatting. That's once again another check with which you have been probably doing even before, and I hope everything will be okay. And as I said, is it now soft copies, hard copies, paper copies or not? So that has to be ticked. After that has been done, then the thesis examination, let's say, stage or step will be introduced. The thesis will be sent out to those 2, usually, as we said, 2 selected examiners. And then here I would like to say a few things which should be kind of understood and you should follow them. The examination has to be undertaken on a confidential basis. So definitely there should be no communication. You should not know it, who that is, because many times when that was not given, let's say, and some universities still don't have it, the students know who is the examiner. They were kind of getting nervous, and they were contacting the examiners and things like that, and that is just totally wrong. So that's why the second bullet point has to be kind of really taken seriously. Neither the student nor the supervisors, though the supervisors many times know who is examiner, may not contact them at any point during the examination process. If that is done, that is kind of breaching the policies. And I have even seen that some of the examiners have said, I was contacted by the supervisor, I don't want to continue with the examination because that's not okay. So don't do things like that. Don't even think of doing things like that, because it will not end well. It will rather actually cause issues. Don't do that. So after they have kind of agreed, sometimes it's even like that, that then the supervisors do not, examiners do not agree to examine the thesis. That's why some universities, let's say in the previous stage, are even sending first the abstract of the thesis and are asking the selected examiners whether they are willing to perform the examination. That kind of speeds up a little bit the process, because the examiners have, let's say, agreed that they will do it, and that, as I said, speeds up the process, because they do not kind of wait for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks and then finally they say, no, I will not do it. So that's another kind of precautions which can be taken by a university. And then after they have done, let's say, their examination, they will do what? They will do 2 things. They will write a written report, which should follow, once again, the guidelines and the policy of the university. Even for the examiners, the universities have a clear guidelines how to write, what to write, or what are the, let's say, critical, what are the important parts which have to be included into the report. And probably the most important part is for all of us, that means universities as well as supervisors and students, that they give the recommendation, which are usually like no revision, minor revision, major revision, or hopefully not, fail. So these are kind of usually the most important, as I said, feedbacks which we are getting from the examiners. I do always check first that, and then I do everything else. That's for me the most important part. Have we passed or haven't we passed? Okay, so that was now this part, what the examiners have to do. Now, as I mentioned, we have received the feedbacks or the reports from the examiners. Usually we get minor revisions or minor and major revisions. In many cases, even, you know, how you understand major, minor, it's a little bit different. Everybody sees this in a different way, but that's usually minor revisions. Major revisions, very, very seldom, no revisions. And in majority of the cases, whenever the university and the supervisors, as well as the students, take PhD thesis or DBA thesis really seriously, we do not expect a fail, but you never know. But usually that's not the case. That's why all those steps are there, in order to avoid situations like that. We are always saying, to the students, let us send it rather 1 month later, but everything has been checked, and even the university is kind of behind, and they said everything's okay. We don't expect any major issues with the thesis anymore. So after the recommendations have come back and reports are in, then usually something like thesis examination committee will be formed, and this committee makes decisions based on the examiner's reports, as well as I said, sometimes even internal reports as well. Or somebody mentioned before, I guess that was Shehu, who said that he is right now waiting for Viva. That is another way of doing it. So some universities, let's say the majority, let's say UK universities as well, but not all of them, but even some of the Australian universities have just the 2 examination reports, and based on that, they will make the final decision. But many universities are having, let's say in Europe, the vast majority are having Viva as well. So that means examination committee as well as Viva, and based on those two, the examination committee will make the final decision about the outcome of the thesis. And then, you know what follows then? Then it's actually your turn once again. Depending on the, let's say, quality, how the examiners have seen the thesis, you will be requested, asked, pushed, whatever you want actually, to see that, that the revisions will be made. And as I said, if it is minor, won't be probably a lot to be done. If it's major, you will be sweating a little bit more. Okay. So, any questions regarding how the process runs after you have done your part, let's say? That was kind of now a little bit the description of the steps which are mostly done without your, let's say, involvement, knowledge, just the steps that the higher degree of research, let's say, office has to do and follow. Any questions so far?
Everything cool?
Everything clear? Perfectly fine. So let us then go to the last part. How long can it take? And I hope I will not disappoint you here, because I will not be probably able to stick with those suggested 3 to 4 months. But let us go. Once again, after you have submitted the thesis, let's say, to your supervisors, it's another question how you have worked or how the supervisors are used to work. Some of them are regularly giving you feedback on your, let's say, chapters, chapter by chapter. That, if that is the case, then that will be actually much, much better and probably much faster, because the, let's say, distinct chapters have already been kind of approved. But still, at the end, we always request actually to see the final draft once again, because then, for example, how I do it, I read it over a weekend, I read over the weekend the whole thesis. That means I really take 2 days just for that. And then I really go through every single, let's say, line, chapter, word, it doesn't matter, but I have all the, let's say, relationships then kind of in my mind. So everything is at once there, from the introduction, conceptualization, research questions, everything is there. And based on that, you will be doing your, let's say, as a supervisor, your final feedback, and hopefully you will be giving as soon as possible, as I mentioned before, green light. But even though you have worked hard for each of the separate chapters, expect that we will come with some additional comments, because that is really aligning, that is really the fine trimming of your thesis from our side, and that always comes something to be done. And usually, as I said, depends when it is. If it is towards the end of the semester, we are probably quite busy, so it won't go so fast. And based on my experience, I'm saying from 2 to 8 weeks, because it is, as we said, 80,000 words, 90,000 words, maybe 60,000 words, but it is an important thing. And that's why the supervisors should have enough time, and don't push them. Please don't push them. It's much better that it takes 1 week more and they will give you their feedback than that you will be getting feedback from the examiners, because that will be much more unpleasant and will mean more work actually. So give them time. I have estimated that from 2 to 4 weeks. I have seen 2 weeks. I've done it actually. I've done it in 2 weeks, but I've done it even in 5 or 6 weeks as well. No time. I just couldn't do that. I was so sorry, but that's it. So I would estimate 2 to 8 weeks. And then it is kind of your turn. Depends how much, let's say, we will be requesting. the supervisory team will be requesting, you might need, let's say, hopefully not much, but yeah, it might take another 2-3 weeks, but can take even 3 months. Once again, depending on your availability, on your time and things like that. So that could be something like that. Then, as we said, if we do have this internal examination, that might take, especially if we are inviting somebody from outside, another 1 to 4 weeks. The next step, as we said, will be the English language proofreading and editing services. In majority of the cases, okay, you might pay a little bit more, even if you want to have it actually faster, but usually they are performing these services within 2 weeks. Then it is the similarity test. You upload, I mean, not you, but it will be uploaded, and that is usually 1 day, 24 to 48 hours. Then, as I said, it goes to the integrity officer, if you do have that stage. As I said, not every university has it, but if you do have it, he will have to go through the similarity report. He will have to write the report. And in some cases, I didn't introduce that here. I'm expecting that everything's okay. But in some cases, you will be requested once again to do something. In case the similarity is high, in case that some, let's say, sentences, statements, yeah, sometimes in the literature review, some paragraphs are really not written by you, but maybe just slightly rewritten, rephrased or something like that. The integrity officer might request you to work on that as well. And that might bring maybe here another 1 week. But I didn't want to include that. And then is actually your submission to the university. So if we count that together, let us go with the fastest possible way. I would say 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, plus 4 weeks is 8 weeks. Okay, I even don't want to talk about the longest possible way, which might be really, really long. So just saying, if you are able to bring that within 8 weeks, which is kind of 2 months, then that will be quite a good result. Okay, as I said, it does not go fast. The next stage is then the examination period. So before we were talking about the submission time, and now we are talking about the examination time. Submission by the university to the examiners, usually it goes fast, but sometimes, I don't know, if you submit it just shortly before a break, let's say, or I've seen some, I know I've seen it, somebody submitted it just before Christmas. The university was closed for 2 weeks, nothing has happened for example, 2 weeks, but usually it goes fast. It shouldn't be more than 2 weeks. Then the examiners are getting time usually up to 8 weeks. It depends on the universities. Usually they're asking from 6 to 8 weeks to come back with the report. I have to unfortunately tell you that the majority is kind of even late. That means the university is usually kind of reminding, kind reminders. The first one goes out after 4 weeks, the next one goes out after 6 weeks. And then they say, okay, I'll do it, don't worry, I'll do it. Next week, I'll do it. That next week will be in 2 weeks or something like that. So that's why I said usually it is the latest possible week or even 1 week later. That's why here I usually go with 8 weeks. Then we have the thesis examination committee. Once again, it depends. If the membership is clear, then it might go even fast. Some of the universities have this committee meetings, let's say once per month or something like that. It depends when you are then in this cycle. Some of them build actually committees just for each of the theses, depends. But usually it takes 2 to 4 weeks. If you have, as we said before, Viva in there, the Viva preparation organization, you have to get actually the examiners, you have to get actually the supervisors, the student, the committee, all those guys should be kind of coordinated. Usually takes another 2 to 3 weeks easily. After that, you have received actually the feedback. And as I said, is it now minor? Is it major? It depends. If it is minor, you will probably get up to 3 months. If it is, should I say, middle major, you will get 6 months. But if it is really an unpleasant one, you can get up to 12 months. So now the things are once again in your hands. How much time you will have available in order to react on the comments. But yeah, as I said, depends from 1 week up to even 12 months has happened, or even more in some cases, because the previous steps were not really considered in a proper way. After you have done that, it depends once again how it goes. Usually can go just to the Dean of Research or Head of Postgraduate Studies. As I said, depends how your university structures are. They will take usually 1 to 2 weeks. But that is in case that the examiner said, I'm fine with it. These are my comments. I don't want to read it once again. It should be reviewed to the satisfaction, let's say, of the university. If that's not the case, they want to read it once again. That will here actually include another at least 2 to 4 weeks. Okay? And then after that has been done, you got your green light. Then you will have to probably, I don't know, hopefully not much. If there's something to be done, it's in your hands once again. That can go really fast. You can do it maybe within 1 day, 2 days or something like that. So let us count max 1 week. And then you have your graduation. And as you know, majority of the universities have 2 graduations, some of them 3 graduations per year. Once again, it depends at what time will you be finishing. Is it now towards or close to the graduation and you can be still considered? If you have just missed it, you might wait up to another 6 months. Okay, the rest was weeks, here are months. So if we go and sum up these weeks, here we go, let's say 0. That's 5, 6. Let us make here 4. It's 10, 11, 12. Okay, let us cut it here. 12 weeks. That is another about 4 months. And what did we have before? We had before, 8 weeks. What is kind of 2 months? So if you count that together, as we mentioned, 2 plus 4 equals what? To 6 months. So in case you will be able to say, I have done it all, I'm just waiting now for the graduation, and that period will be shorter than 6 months, I will congratulate you. And I'll say, you have done it actually quite fast. Okay, so that is how it goes. I don't want to start counting the other ones, okay, together, because that might make you extremely unhappy. So I don't want to go with this one now. But as you see, here it is much longer. So 6 months, I would say, is kind of minimum. And slowly coming to the end, what I will say now is, I say just don't give up. I mean, even though we have just heard that it was tough, it was kind of influencing mental health, in a way, don't give up. It is not worth giving up. You wanted to have that, you take a decision, you have worked hard, so don't give up. Because at one point, you will be graduating. Just take care that the things have been done as they should have been done. Think of quality, and that's it. Based on that, you will definitely be standing up there. The whole crowd will be applauding you, and you will be proud of yourself. And not just you of yourself, many of your close ones, dear ones, will be extremely happy with you. And once again, it is worth. So at one point, you will be stepping into this eternity, though it might seem that is just actually, as we usually say, never-ending story, but it will end at one point. Just don't give up. And that's it from my side, I would say. Let us discuss it. Maybe after Jack will take over. Jack?
Yep, sorry, I just had to get the
Okay.
audio up. Okay, then just to give you an update, there are a range of different areas within the Doctorate Hub that offering, such as the writing up your structure of your thesis. That is an advanced course that allows, there's 3 different formats obviously on that as shown on the screen. There's a self-paced or fully tutored range available, and the link's on the screen. And if you go onto the Doctorate Hub website, you have along the top the advanced courses. You also have all the webinars which you can listen to at any point in time afterwards, along with the slide decks. Did you want to take the next screen, please? And other than that, there's also a series of clubs. And in the clubs, you've got the writing club, which is writing up your thesis. So that allows you a time where you can actually focus on the writing, but you do have the support there. And there's also other ones such as preparing for your Viva. Again, taking through the various types of questions and doing the test pod on those. I'll put you back over to Professor Bostian for any questions people may have.
Yeah, I mean, the last part, as we said,